Hey subscribers, welcome back to the channel. On today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of maintenance on my JL. I have the 2-liter 4-cylinder in my Jeep Wrangler, and today we're going to be doing an oil change. My interval for oil change is about every 5,000 miles. I have gone over that just a little bit, a couple hundred miles. Not a huge deal, but today we're going to tackle it and show you how to do the oil change. Okay, so I'm underneath the Jeep. I've got my electric ratchet here. It's going to be a 14 millimeter on here. You just get that on there and then make sure that it's set to loosen. Mine seems like a little loose. So then we're going to pull the pan under here. Then you want to check the pan here, and that's warm, so I'm going to get a glove. Alright, so I've switched positions here, make it a little bit easier. Pull your drain pan so that it is in line with the bottom of the sump here. We're going to spin that around, and then you want to put pressure on the drain plug as you're slowly letting it out. And then so I don't have any threads there, so I'm just gonna kind of hold it there, let most of this out, and you want to kind of lift up and out at the same time. And the only bad thing is my drain plug, or drain pan rather, is a little bit too shallow, so it likes to splash out.
Otherwise, you could quickly remove the bolt and the oil would all come out, and you wouldn't get any on your hands.
Because of that, I got to hold this here, but that's why I got the gloves on. Okay. And then set the bolt off to the side, make sure it doesn't fall in. And got a little bit on my fingers, not too bad. Alright everybody, so now we're going to do the oil filter. And it's just right off here to the side on the 2-liter. It is the old style. And I took my glove off, and I probably shouldn't have, because I didn't think there would be that much left in there. So I've just got my finger holding it on here. The threads are still on, but we're going to let it drain here for a second and then take it off. The other thing you can do is loosen the cap at the top of the engine for the where you put your oil in, and that's going to let the system drain a little bit faster, but honestly there's enough air going through the hole right here in the oil pan. Shouldn't have to worry about it. Alright, so I've let this drain here for probably about 15 minutes or so. So we're going to clean up the hole with a paper towel. And then put our bolt back in. Okay, so now I'm on the workbench. Got my oil filter here. These are pretty small for the Jeep in my opinion, but it is a 4-cylinder. Most of my stuff I'm used to are typically V8s, so I guess half the size of the engine, half the size of the filter. But what we're going to do is you want to lubricate the O-ring on the filter so you get a good seal. And then because I have to tilt the filter sideways or diagonally to get it up into the engine, normally you'd fill this all the way up, but for this I'm only going to do about half, just so there is some oil in the filter, and when we do our initial startup it's not dry. So what I like to do is take the tip of your finger here, stick that down on your oil, and just put a coat there on the O-ring. That's all you have to do, just a little bit there. And then if I can do this on camera and not spill it all over the place, there's about half. Okay, so ready to install the oil filter. Alright everybody, whoops. So you see it started dripping already. We're just gonna put that up there, spin it tight. And I did get some oil on my hands, so wipe that off. Wipe off the filter. And then for these, tight's tight, so I mean, I've got pretty good hand strength, I think. I mean, obviously there's stronger guys out there than I am, but you want it so that's probably about perfect, because you want it tight so that the O-ring compresses, but then you don't want it so tight that you have to use a screwdriver or a set of clamps or something to get it off. It still should be able to come off with your hand. The heat cycles will tighten it up, where it, you know, gets warm, expands, cools down, contracts. Last but not least, down here I got my torque wrench for the JL. It is set to 20 foot-pounds, and we're already there. So not much. Again, you don't have to make these too tight. So this is everything for an oil change on the bottom end. Now let's go to the top of the engine. Okay, so I'm here at the top of the engine. I have the cover removed from the top of the 2-liter. The reason why I'm doing this is because some of the other owners on some of the Facebook groups I'm on have said that this reservoir up here has a potential to crack. Also, there's a T connector down in here that I wanted to look at that can also fail. It's a plastic piece. With heat cycles, you know, the plastic expands, it contracts, and eventually it gets brittle and it will break because it's under pressure. So I'm trying to just keep an eye on this stuff. That way, so if I notice it's starting to leak or something, I know, hey, I need to get new parts and replace it so I'm not straining it on the side of the road. So put oil in a car, very simple and straightforward. Get a funnel here. You remove this cap to get the cover off. I put it back on so nothing falls down in the engine, because that is in the bad category. But we're just gonna set that right there. Mine doesn't really sit. It's just gonna have to kind of stay there. I'll have to hold it. But let me get my gallon of oil and we're gonna pour some in. All right, so one of the nice things with this oil, it's a 5W30 blend Valvoline Advanced Synthetic. Jeep does call for synthetic oil for the turbos, but this is about the cheapest oil synthetic that I can find. I get it on Amazon. One of the reasons I like that is because Amazon keeps track of all my purchases. So if Jeep ever comes by and says, hey Kyle, you didn't do your oil changes, I can basically pull up the maintenance records and say, yep, this date I did an oil change, this date I did an oil change, and here's my receipts. So it makes it really nice and convenient. But this is a really low viscous oil. So as you can see, it dumps really, really quickly. Book says that the engine calls for 5 quarts. Now this gallon is about a quarter of a quart shy to 5 quarts. So I also buy the an extra quart, and then what I'll do is I'll use half of it for this oil change, half of it for my next oil change. But the main thing is, when you get done with your oil change here, you want to measure your dipstick, check that, make sure that you have sufficient oil in there. So this one's about done. Gonna go get the other half quart and put it in, and we should be ready to test for some leaks. Okay, so I've got everything buttoned up, torque down on the bottom, got the oil in it, top is closed up. Basically what you want to do is start the engine, run it for about 30 seconds or so, let the oil circulate around in the engine, make sure that you don't have any leaks, so check it underneath. And now we're just going to double check the dipstick, make sure we've got good oil level. Wipe it off once, and I have let the engine set for a minute or so, so most of the oil should drain back into the oil pan. All right, so yeah, you're not going to be able to see that, but I got oil right there at the top. That's where the bubble breaks. So this oil change is done. All right, that's going to wrap up the video. Hopefully, if you've never done an oil change on the Jeep Wrangler or any vehicle, it's pretty much the same, just where your oil filter, where you put your oil in, is going to be a little bit different. The reason I like to do this is because you get underneath your vehicle, you get to see what's going on with it. You can check parts, make sure if you see any wear items, if you see any other fluids leaking, oil, transmission fluid, anything like that. For instance, I would have never known that I had kissed the oil pan on this thing if I hadn't crawled underneath there and looked. So that's going to really help you also on the trail. You know, we push these vehicles extremely hard, way harder than they're going to be pushed on pavement when we're off-road. And we're also going to do it when we're miles and miles away from civilization. So you want to be able to depend on your vehicle. If you do your own maintenance, you become familiar with it. You know, these are the tools that I need to repair something, or these are the things that I need to look out for. Or, you know, if something happens, it might give you some ideas as to, you know, what needs to be fixed or how to fix it even. Oh, one other thing. With your oil, your used oil, a lot of the auto parts will take that. So now I have the fun job of dumping the old oil into the container that I got the new oil in, so I can take it back. Please recycle your oil, guys. They basically can kind of reuse it and use it for other products, which is really cool. But also too, it gets it out of your shop so you don't fall on it and it goes everywhere.